Hi everybody, and welcome back to my home office. We're going to talk a little bit today about how to actually transition into an online class, and I'm going to give you 6 tips for doing that. Alright, so let's talk about the challenges associated with transitioning from a traditional lecture live course to an online environment. So I'm going to provide you with some tips on how to make that transition as smooth as possible and actually keep up with the workload. The difference between the two has to do often with the amount of work. I hear from students often and they're like, I want online classes, and when you really start to ask them why, it's because they think that it'll be easier with less time commitments because they don't have to go to a class and sit in a class and listen to a lecture. The reality of an online environment is when the classes are well developed, you actually read, watch videos, and write more than you do in a traditional class because they're designed that way to get you involved and actively engaged in what's happening. So that can be very challenging in and of itself. But now we are in this period where you didn't plan on taking an online class, weren't really considering it as something you wanted to do, and all of your classes went online. What I'm going to say is be grateful. In this particular situation, you can't go into live lectures. If we didn't have the option, or if your professors or university weren't willing to make that transition for you, you would have lost the semester and had to retake the classes. So from that perspective, you need to be grateful that you have the online to go to. But there are some things you can do to make this transition a little easier on yourself and prepare you for this move into it. So the first thing is really thinking through the mindset you have. This is a job. You need to treat it as such and be a professional about it, right? You go to work every day, you do your best work, you show up on time, you spend the time that's necessary to get your workload done. And just like for those of us who are used to going into an office setting, and now we're working from our home office every day, the expectation is we're still doing our work, putting in the time necessary to do a good job. And the same is said for you. So if your mindset isn't right, this is going to even be more challenging for you. So step back and go, you know what? I am learning so that I can be a professional. I want to get as much as I can out of this semester, and every day this is going to be like my job. So that's first. Second, if your class has moved to asynchronous, so the difference between synchronous and asynchronous, some of you may still be going to class at the same time, the same days that you normally went to class and listening to a live lecture. You're just doing it through Zoom or some other platform. So I'm not talking to you as a group. I'm talking to the ones that are asynchronous. You have reading you need to do, videos you need to watch, and then activities you need to engage in, whether that be discussion boards, collaborations with teammates, quizzes, exams. You've got some kind of activities that are also grouped in that area. So you need to go ahead and set aside the time on the date and time that you would normally have class. So if you're in a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 to 9:50 class, then you need to set that time aside to work on that class. So read and watch videos during that time period, work on assignments during that time period. Now, just like in your typical classroom, that's not generally enough. You go in and listen to lectures for that period of time a week, but you're also expected to spend time outside of class as well. So you're still going to be doing that. It just looks a little different. So first, mindset is key. Second, now you're going to be going, okay, I already have in my calendar blocked off to work during this time for this class. Third, review any prep information provided by the professors and do it now. We're a week into this for most students, and you need to read anything they gave you about updated syllabus, grading weights that may have changed because they're reassessing where they're going to put the weight because of the way the class is now structured, point adjustments. So it may have been a class that had 2,000 points and now it's down to 1,500. Integrity statements and expectations. You need to get a good handle for each class what this now looks like and the expectations associated with that. Now, one of the things I do want to tell you is the integrity and the expectation statements are key for you to really think through and pay attention to. If it's an individual assignment, you do it by yourself. If it's an exam and you're not allowed to work with other people, you do not work with other people. This is about your integrity, your morals, and our trust that you're going to do the right thing. And if we find out you don't and won't do the right thing, that's going to actually lead to some other decisions being made about the way things are structured you may not like. But it also eliminates opportunities for you going forward in the future in terms of how we might approach the class in ways you might want. So do the right thing and approach this from the standpoint, I'm not going to cheat, because that's what it is. If we've said it's an individual assignment, you're supposed to do it on your own, and you're making arrangements to work with other people on it, you're cheating. And you're violating our trust, and that's not a good thing. So pay attention to those guidelines. There may be assignments where we're like, we want you to collaborate in a team. We want you to work together. And so do that. That's where it's appropriate. But draw the line for yourself and don't cross it. Okay, so we have the first, second, and third tip under our belt now. The fourth is to review the organization of this new class. How has it been put together, and what are you expected to do? Now, if this was a typical online class and this was the beginning of a semester, you should have the entire class already designed and laid out for you. We're not in normal times, so many of your professors are going to be working to get 1 week at a time to get that week out to you before it starts. So you may not have the whole grouping for the rest of the semester to look at. So I would say every Sunday you need to just make a plan to go into Canvas, Blackboard, whatever your university is using, and look at open each class and go, okay, what am I supposed to do this week? So look at all of the information and read it closely. There are due dates in there for when you need to do certain things. You need to make note of those and follow them. And for some of you, I know this may be kind of a new thing because you're not used to keeping track of due dates. Someone else will remind you. Well, you're not walking in a hall or stepping into a classroom. Your professor's not saying, oh, remember next week or next class period you have this due. We've put it all in writing and set it out there for you to see. So our expectation is you're going to read it and read it thoroughly. So do that. Record all the due dates. So if you're in a discussion board, there's going to be an original post due by a certain time, and then there's going to be your responses to others due by a certain time. Most professors will stick with the same days. Like for instance, I always have original posts due on Wednesday, and I have responses to others due by Friday. That'll be consistent across every discussion board you see for me. Original's going to be on Wednesday, and you're going to have your responses on Friday. Most professors will do that. We may not pick the same days, but we will be consistent in our class. But you need to verify that every time. When is the assignment due? Is it Sunday or Friday? What time is it due? And am I in the same time zone? So some of you went home and you're at home. You're no longer in your university's location, and that may mean a different time zone. Wherever your university is located at, those due dates are in that time zone. Make sure that you make adjustments for time zone. Assignments, quizzes, exams, get all those in your calendar, and you need a calendar for this because remember, you're juggling a lot of classes. You want to make sure, just like a normal semester, you have this detailed. Decide on when you're going to read and watch things. So you can look at what the reading is, you can look at the videos, and what I would go ahead and click in, and even though I'm not going to watch them, I would look and see how long they are. This one's 10 minutes, this one's 15 minutes, I've got 3, and all together they equal 50 minutes. So I'm going to watch all the videos on Monday from 9 to 9:50, right? This reading total, it's about 12 pages. So I'm going to read that Monday afternoon. Now I've got all the material I need to do my assignments. So now on Monday from 9 to 9, Wednesday from 9 to 9:50, and Friday from 9 to 9:50, I can do the work. Original posts on Wednesday. So depending on when your normal class periods are, what you've got to read and watch, and how much time that's going to take, plot it out. The more you do that, you can manage your priorities. That's going to reduce your stress. So if you'll just do it at one time for every class and get a good view of what you're dealing with, then you can move things around as you need based on when due dates are, and take a deep breath and move forward. Evaluate the time commitment for each class. Each one's going to be a little different. Some weeks, I'll use mine for an example. One week it's a little heavier in the overall workload. The next week it may be a little heavier in reading and writing, but the workload's a lot lighter in terms of assignments. So I try to balance that week from week. So one week may be a little heavier on assignments. The next week it's light on assignments. And so it kind of has this movement like this in my classes so that you get a little bit of a break in terms of the total amount of work you're doing. And in mine, I do a lot of collaborative work with teammates, so you're kind of spreading out the larger projects so no one has to put all the time in on their own. So evaluate that time commitment for the class. And if you've got some teamwork that has to be done, then you need to stop and really think about, okay, we've got some teamwork that has to be done. We need to get together on Monday and decide when we're going to get together to work, which again, if you're used to the live class, you should have all had the same time and days set aside for that class, so use one of those periods of time. Fifth, set a schedule for yourself and stick to it. This is a challenging time. We need to be social distancing. Isolation is something that many of us are engaged in. So you've got time. You've also got work schedules that you may or may not be putting into the mix. And kids, some of you may have children that are at home and you are now the teacher. And so that also is going to create some unique challenges for you in this whole thing. So setting down and setting a schedule for yourself on when you're going to work through things and balance all of that will help you a great deal in this sixth step, which is managing your stress level. You know, I don't think of myself as very stressed by all this, but then 2 days ago, I opened my mouth and I realized I could barely open my mouth because my jaw was so sore and so tight that I couldn't get full movement. And I realized I must be grinding my teeth and clenching my jaws even when I'm sleeping. So even if it's not conscious, subconsciously, you have stress over the entire situation. And that may be manifesting in different ways. And so be kind to yourself and find some time to actually take a breath and recognize what you don't have any control over and need to just kind of release. Do what you can do to keep yourself safe and do what you can do to manage your pathway through the rest of your semester and plot it out so that your stress level associated with completion drops some. This kind of gives you a 6-step process for evaluating how you're managing now and maybe restarting that in a different way so that you can transition into this online work a little smoother and recognize what it's going to take to manage it effectively so that you end strong. If you have questions, you can post them below. I hope you find this helpful. If there's other things that you would like information on or just some tips about and you'd like a video on, please feel free to let me know and I will be more than happy to do that. Stay safe and I'll talk to you next time.